Not having things in writing, also a red flag. Anytime you're getting any kind of verbal price or, yeah, we can do that, that'll be fine. Or, oh, yeah, we can include this for you, and not having it written down explicitly, definitely a red flag. You want to avoid change orders as much as possible.
If somebody's using Realm, you guys take care of that process and hold their hand throughout it.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're here to help with everything.
A big part of every ADU project is picking your builder. And a big part of picking your builder is actually reading that agreement, understanding their bid, and negotiating it a little bit, having those hard conversations. I want to bring in an expert who can talk us through a real example of a homeowner who had a huge difference in the bids that they were getting and how they grappled with that difference, how they eventually found the perfect builder for their project, and how they negotiated with that builder. So, having said all that, we've got Charlotte in from our sponsors, Realm Home. She regularly helps homeowners with collecting bids and negotiating them. Charlotte, do you want to introduce yourself and talk a bit about your work at Realm?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Charlotte. I am one of our advisors at Realm. So I'm here to help homeowners make the right decision when it comes to their renovation projects, especially with ADUs, our biggest project type. Make sure they're getting a good deal, but also make sure that they're getting the contractor that's the best fit for them too.
We've done a video before about how to look at the agreement you get from a contractor. And they're never apples to apples, right? Like some people are including a completely different scope of work, and the way that the work is itemized and broken down can vary from contract to contract. So if it's your first project, that stuff can be pretty confusing. What are some of the common kind of first steps you recommend to people?
Yeah. So that's a lot of where we come in, is comparing bids and really helping get those apples to apples, because no two bids are ever alike. There's always a lot of differences. The key things that I would look for to start are going to be, number one, price. Of course, that's something to always look at, but understanding what's included in that price. And I think the main thing to look for, especially with ADUs, is inclusions versus exclusions as far as finished materials go. It's an added cost. Most contractors will include finished materials for ADUs, but some will not. So it's really key, really important to see what's included and what grade of materials are being included for you as well. Everybody might want a different grade. You might want construction grade, mid grade. You might want high-end finishes, and that's going to have a really big impact on the overall price there. So something really important to look for: are finished materials included? What level of finished materials are included? To make sure that you're really seeing that all-in price, because it might seem like a really great deal up front. It might actually not be. There might not be finished materials included there for you.
Mm-hmm. And if there aren't finished materials included, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just you need to
No.
know that when you're doing the math, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely you just need to be aware of it, and just need to have an idea of how much those might cost based on the level of quality that you're looking for.
Yeah. So, well, do you have some examples? How much should that cost, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So it does vary for different areas. But for SoCal, I have a great example from a client that I had in Long Beach who came to us with a bid that seemed quite high. Generally for SoCal, we're looking around 350 a square foot for a new build, for new construction detached ADUs.
Let me take a step back here. So this is a homeowner who
Mhm.
went out, got some ideas together for what they wanted to do, got a bid from a builder,
Mhm.
and at that point they come to Realm and they meet
Exactly.
you, and you take a peek at their bid and the actual the what's included in it, and
Mhm.
you're like, A, that's high, and B, there's a bunch of stuff that's not included, so it's even higher.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Based on that, what are the next? That's like a first call you have with them, or had they already gotten the get it done package? Like, what step were they at with Realm?
Yeah, so they actually came to us with plans that they'd already submitted to the city. So they were a little different in that they did not get our Get It Done package, which I would highly recommend doing up front. It's just really good to get an idea of pricing, feasibility, and everything. And we'll give you like comps and rental comps as well. So it's super helpful to have. They came in though having submitted plans and had this outside bid. So my first job was to look at this. Is this reasonable? And that's why they came into us. They just didn't know. And they'd had a couple other quotes from outside that were just verbal. So they were really uncertain on how much they should be paying and even what they were looking at and what was included there. So my first step with them is to say, hey, this is a fair price for the work. And then our next step from there, if it is not, is to say, we don't think that this is what you should be paying for what you're looking for. and let's get some more contractors in front of you so that we can really get a variety of quotes and get a really good average price for what you should be paying for this, more in line with what we're seeing in terms of market pricing.
Okay. So to put that another way, a homeowner who's watching this video, maybe they've already got plans. Maybe they've already got a bid from a builder and they're just like, well, can't hurt to get your perspective. They can use the link in the description below, book a free call with Realm, and part of that first free call, you can just eyeball the quote and be like, hey, based on our averages, that looks good. Or it's a little punchy. Or, well, it really depends on what's included. Something like that.
Exactly. That's completely correct.
Awesome. Okay, so that helps kind of put me at where they were at, the example you're using, and then it's interesting. You talked about what you're seeing right now in terms of average cost per square foot. Let me apply what you just taught me. What
Yes.
is included in that cost per square foot when you're using your average?
Yeah, for SoCal, so for mainly for like LA and Orange County, that's the pricing that we're seeing is that 330 to 350 per square foot for a new detached ADU with like mid-grade finishes. So we're looking at like all finished materials included, and finished materials being things like tile, your bathroom vanity, kitchen countertops, cabinets, flooring, and you're looking at like quartz countertops, shaker cabinets most of the time, luxury vinyl plank flooring. So you're getting good mid-grade materials there that are really solid materials, especially if you're looking to rent it out. So that's a lot of what is included. So it should be a very all-inclusive cost. The only things not included in those are going to be plans. So that design cost is always going to be separate, and any city like plan check or permit fees as well. And usually appliances not being included too because they're just so subjective to the homeowner.
Yeah. The other question kind of I often see like utilities trenching or, some of those big variables that aren't really per square foot of the ADU. They're just like a lump cost. Or is that something you try to build into your averages when you're comparing, or do you itemize it out? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so I definitely want to check those. Actually, in this exact case, that did come up. They had a quote that was lower, but they hadn't accounted for the linear feet that was going to needed to be there to trench for utilities. They had it a little shorter than what was needed. I think one of the bids that he had originally came in around 60 linear feet for trenching, and in reality, it was going to be a bit more like 100 or 120 feet. So
Okay.
those are things to really look at. We do like to eyeball those and break those out. In terms of cost, it's not like a big cost, like it's usually not line itemed out, but it is really good to look at because the contractors may have to factor that in and redo the bid.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like in this example you've got, they said, "All right, let show me three more bids. Get me some bids," and they used Realm to do that.
And I can share my screen here and just give you an example just to show what this pricing disparity looked like here.
Love it. Let's do it.
All right, so this is a bid that the client came in with, a super low bid, around 220 a square foot, which is a red flag for me from the start, especially because it included finished materials. For any kind of new construction, that is far too low of a price per square foot for Southern California. So we had to look into this and see, okay, why is this so low?
How can a bid be too cheap?
It's a little crazy, but it definitely can be. Anything that's too cheap just really puts up some red flags. We were able to find that they were only using builder grade materials for the most part, apart from like the quartz countertops there, and that it was a not very well established contractor. Very few reviews, and the only ones we found were quite negative. So we generally want to steer clients away from that, especially if they're doing any kind of like new detached ADU build. It's great to have somebody with a little bit more experience or at least some really great client referrals or a site visit that you could do to see their quality of work as well. So there's a few things that we want to look at in that instance. My first was, okay, our finished materials included. They were, which was quite surprising for that price per square foot. So then next is, okay, what grade of materials are they using? Mainly builder grade with some kind of mid-grade materials in there, which still much too low. So then we go into company reviews. Okay, are they a new company? Are they just trying to establish themselves, which you might run into? And in that case, I would really recommend trying to go see some of their other job sites to see the quality of work, or asking for some client references too for other homeowners that have worked with them. And if they're not able to do that, kind of has that lack of trust, look up reviews on them too. Do they have a lot of reviews? Do they have good reviews, negative reviews? And you can also check any contractor's license too. You can see if there's any kind of like litigation currently against them, and that's something that we as Realm will do for you as well. We'll go in and do all of that investigation for you and find out if there's any kind of other red flags there. So that's a lot of what we were able to find with this one here.
Another one that I think I run into a fair amount is there are contractors who offer affordable pricing. It's usually more
Mm-hmm.
believable than this, right? But their pace is very different. And so having a
Yes.
conversation about timing, how many projects they do at once, how quickly they expect to start and finish the project, sometimes that can reveal like, oh, they don't have the same idea I have about when this starts and finishes.
Definitely. Yeah, making sure they have enough crews. How long is this project going to take? And we're always happy to like advise on that too. And the amount of time for completion that this project should realistically take. Something to look at is, yeah, how many crews do they have? How often are they going to be on site? How long until they can even start the project too? They might be very booked out because they are very price competitive. So if your timeline is more immediate, you might want to find a different contractor there.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to go to the other bid. So same ADU, but a slightly different bid.
Yes, definitely slightly different here. So we're actually looking, we went from 220 a square foot all the way up to 386. 386, in my opinion, unless you're getting some higher end finishes, is probably too high for per square foot if finishes are included. The thing that we noticed right off the bat with this bid, though, is that finished materials were not included as well. So it was far too high for what the client should be paying. It really exceeded their budget. So we were trying to find some ways to save here, but it just was not going to meet their budget, even though they really liked the contractor, really great, just nice people, but they just were unrealistic in their price per square foot, just didn't meet the client's budget.
All right. And then we're going to pull up the Goldilocks bid.
Yes.
So again, same ADU, but now they've got kind of a bid somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, so this is the one that they're actually moving forward with. So we're in here at 339 per square foot. It's very in line with market pricing. Kind of what I mentioned with being from 330 to 350 is that range that we tend to see for new detached ADUs for LA and Orange County right now. So it's right on the spot. Finished materials were included for them. They were very accurate in terms of like their scope of work, really detailed in what was going to be included and excluded. Finished materials are in here. So overall, just a really great price, really great fit. They loved the contractor's communication too. So ultimately who they are going with, kind of right in the middle. And we were able to get them another bid too that was a little bit lower than this, but they actually preferred this contractor. So just to say that it's not all about pricing, but having two really comparable prices makes it much easier to make that decision.
Did you guys then negotiate a little bit?
We did negotiate a little bit on some inclusions. There were a couple additional items that they wanted to include. They wanted to do a deck off the side. We were actually able to negotiate that in at the exact same price. So we kept the same price, but added a little bit more onto the scope of work, which was great. We love when we're able to do that and get a little bit more in there for the client.
And it's another good reminder. Like, you don't always need to negotiate price down. Sometimes you can negotiate more elements to be included. A lot of ADU bids aren't going to include exterior decking, hardscaping, landscaping. If you happen to be in a position where the contractor likes doing that type of work, maybe they'll throw that in but keep the price the same. That's a
Yeah,
negotiation.
it's a win-win for everybody. You are getting more, and the contractor, being that they're already going to be on site, tends to sometimes be a little bit more willing to include some additional items at the same cost.
Another one I've seen with you guys a lot is I'll send somebody over for an ADU. They get your advice about the accessory dwelling unit, and then they realize, well, we also want to redo part of the kitchen, or we want to change this one element in our main house. And you guys work on that part too, right?
We do. It's really great to like couple projects together if you can. Really focus on economies of scale. You tend to get a better deal if you're doing more than one project at once, and we can even phase them out too. We can phase them in different orders. ADUs tend to take a little bit more time to get permitted than some interior remodel projects, so There's things that you can get started on in the meantime, but it's really great if you're already having a contractor come out on site, take a look at the space that you want to do an ADU. They can take a look at other things in your home too.
If you're watching this and you're like, I need to learn a lot about these agreements and everything, you can watch this whole playlist of tutorials we put together with Realm. Otherwise, check out the link in the description below. Book a call with Realm, meet Charlotte or one of the other advisors, and just let them do this for you. It's the hard part. All right, let's build some housing.